right, I've got 24 stitches on my needle. We can count them here. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22, and 24. It might feel like this is not gonna be a very big dishcloth, but trust me, it's gonna be fine. It's gonna be on the smaller side, but that's okay. This is a practice piece anyway, first and foremost, and it can double as a nice little scrubby or a nice little dishcloth when you're done. So we're gonna go ahead now, let's start our knit stitches. So again, we're gonna have our yarn over, and we're gonna take and kind of have it going off towards the right for the moment. You're gonna take your needle, you're gonna have your stitches on the needle in your left hand, you're gonna have your empty needle on your right hand. And this is true whether you're using straight needles or circular needles. Again, I'm choosing to use circular needles. That's what I'm most comfortable with and what I prefer. We're gonna kind of push these stitches up towards the tip, not like all the way off. You don't wanna be working like right on the tip, but just beyond. We're gonna take our needle, our empty needle, you're gonna put it into the stitch. You're gonna go to the back of the stitch and then go and push it in from front to back, like this. Bring that up close. See how that's crossed right there. I'll try to hold my needles a little bit closer here. So we've got that in now. Let me show you again. You're going to the back side of the stitch and you're putting it in from the front towards the back. This is also known as inserting the needle knitwise, just for future reference. Then you're gonna use your index finger of your left hand and grab the yarn with your right hand, and then take the yarn, you're gonna wrap it around counterclockwise. So it's gonna go up and over the back of the needle, on the left side of the needle to the right side of the needle. And you're gonna wrap it around, and then I actually like to kind of pull it down so that it's kind of tucked in that little X right there. That's gonna position the yarn so that it is ready to be poked through to the front. So you're gonna pull your needle, your empty needle, or what's currently your empty needle. This is also known as your working needle. And you're going to push this needle through to the front and catch that loop all at the same time. See how I did that? We're gonna pull it, kind of pull it out towards you, and then push it back through to the front. So now you have your new loop and your old loop. You're gonna take, and I usually use my needle, just the tip of my needle, to slide that old loop off. And you now have knit one stitch. Let's do this again. So we're gonna come to the back of the stitch, put your needle in from front to back. You might want to pull on this just a little bit. See how I kind of tightened up that stitch just a little bit. If it's too loose and wonky, then your gauge is going to be really out of whack and it's going to look sloppy and loose. So you want to tighten it up, but don't pull it. It doesn't need to be choking the needle either. It doesn't have to have a death grip on the needle. You just want to snug it up just comfortably. Take the yarn now, and again, I'm holding things in the back with my index finger on my left hand. And you're going to wrap the yarn. You're going to come around to the back side of the point of the needle and bring the yarn up and over to the front. And then I kind of pull it towards me a little so that that yarn slides down and in between the X that has been created with the two needle tips. Then you're going to take your working needle, back it up just a little bit so that you can poke the tip through to the front and catch that loop all in one motion. I know it sounds really hard and complicated, but trust me, once you do it a few times, you'll get it. And then you can just pull that old stitch right off. Come to the back of the stitch, slide your needle in from front to back to make an X, wrap the yarn around from the back to the front and kind of pull it down a little. bring your needle tip down a little bit to poke that through and create your loop, and then slide it off. One more time, back to front, or front of the needle towards the back, but from the back of the stitch. Sorry about that. Wrap the yarn around from back to front, and then poke it through and slide it off. And you just keep going. This first row, I will warn you, can be a little fiddly, can be a little bit tighter because these cast-on stitches are just a little, they're all interconnected because it's basically one continuous loop all the way across. Once you have a row of knit stitches, they function a little bit more independently. And as you move your needle, you don't really tighten from one stitch to the next. So I'm gonna knit a few rows, and then I'm going to come back and talk to you a little bit about what you are looking at when you are looking at your knitting. I have now knit 6 rows. You can see I have some little ridges here that are forming. There is one ridge for every 2 rows. You got the right side and the wrong side, and that creates these little bumps and it creates a ridge. This is what is known as garter stitch, which means you are knitting every single row. You knit across, you turn it around, you knit back the other direction. So that is garter stitch. One pitfall that you're gonna wanna watch for, and actually I'm glad that my yarn is turned like this. See how my yarn is coming up over the top of my needle? I have both legs of my stitch are on the needle, and if I'm not careful, this could look like I have a stitch here to knit and a stitch here to knit, when really it is just one stitch. You see when I pull my yarn down, that is the other loop that is wanting to pull its way up. So you want to make sure you watch for that and you don't knit into this loop, but you only knit into the actual stitch that is on your needle. I would suggest that you count your stitches whenever you finish a row for this, especially this first project, and make sure that you still have the same number of stitches that you started with. In this case, we cast on 24 stitches. You could also do, say, 26 or 28 stitches if you want a slightly larger dishcloth. You can see my little dishcloth is kind of coming together here. And I'm just gonna continue to knit this until I have a square, until it is the same inches high. And this is where my little tape measure will come in handy, all right? If I want it to be exactly square, I will measure across to see how wide it is, and I will knit until it is the same height as it is wide. And when I've done that, I will come back and I will show you how to bind this off.